Let's have a look at simple quadratic equations now, and these are equations of the form x squared equals c. Okay, so let's go through some points together first. So an equation which involves the square of a pronumeral. Okay, we sort of saw that in the heading there, such as, for example, a squared equals 9. Okay, it's an equation, there's an equal sign. Okay, we have a pronumeral, but it's the square of the pronumeral. And we have a number on the other side. Okay, is called quadratic. So why is it called quadratic? Okay, it's called quadratic because it is related to the area of a square or a rectangular quadrilateral. Okay, so when we talk about, for example, a squared equals 9, that could mean, for example, a square whose dimensions are 3 by 3 and whose area is 9. Okay, so that's where the word quadratic comes from. So simple quadratic equations are of the form x squared equals c, where c is a number. Okay. All right, we'll have a look at some examples. Okay. So let's solve the following quadratic equation. This is where you have to be very careful now, okay, just to take special note. With these particular, at least with these examples, in fact, most quadratic equations will have two solutions. Okay. X squared equals 36. Okay. We need to make x the subject of the formula, and the way we do that is to get, I guess, to cancel out the squared, we take the square root of the other side. Okay. So x is equal to square root of 36, but in actual fact, there's going to be two answers. It's going to be either plus square root of 36 or minus the square root of 36. Okay. Now, square root of 36 is 6. So the answer will be plus or minus 6. So if we separate them out, one of the answers could be negative 6. The other answer is positive 6. And the reason for that is, okay, so if we check that, if we put negative 6 in our calculator and put it in, make sure it's in brackets, and you square it, you'll get 36 as the answer. And likewise, with the positive value of 6 there, if you square that and put that in your calculator, okay, so I'll just adjust that camera there, yep, you'll also get 36 as well. Okay, so it's very important to understand what this plus or minus does there. Let's have a look at this one. B squared equals 0.01. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make b the subject of the formula, so we're going to cancel out the squared, and that's going to equal plus or minus. Okay, you can only do this when it's a squared. Okay, so when you're trying to cancel out a square, okay, that's where the plus or minus comes in. You're going to get two values. It's equal to the square root of 0.01. Okay, if you put that into your calculator, enter that in, okay, you'll have plus or minus 0.1. Okay, and if we're going to separate out the two answers, put them in ascending order, you're going to get negative 0.1 or positive 0.1. We don't have to show the positive sign there. Okay, and I could check that negative 0.1. If you square that, put that in your calculator, you'll get 0.01. And so both answers there will work. Okay, let's have a look at part C. Okay, so part C says, asks us to write our answer as a third. Okay, and also correct to one decimal place. Okay, so first thing we do is write y squared is equal to 40. We're going to take the square root of the other side. So the squared becomes a square root when we take the square root of the other side. Okay, so it's going to be plus or minus the square root of 40. Okay, so if we separate out those answers, we get negative square root of 40 and also positive square root of 40. Okay, but it also asks us to find the value to one decimal place. So as a decimal, it's 6.3. Okay, correct to one decimal place. So it's equal to negative 6.3 and also positive 6.3. Okay, so to summarize, okay, and I'll do one last point here. Okay, and make sure you note this down. So the solution, okay, to the quadratic equation, okay, x squared is equal to c, okay, is equal to, okay, plus or minus, okay, that's comes from this plus or minus here, okay, plus or minus the square root of c.